welcome. Happy Pesach Sheni if you're listening to it over Pesach Sheni. But if not, this is a timely message for every time. This is Parsha Perspectives from Rav Asher Rubenstein Zatzal. He left us a large amount of ideas, even though we spoke on the Parsha every week. But when Pesach Sheni came out, he would speak about it in Yeshiva, but also in Parshas Baloscha, where it's found, that's where he would talk about it. So the title is Pesach Sheni, Why Should I Be Left Out? And the first question that Rav Asher used to always tell us is, why is the Yom Tov of Pesach Sheni, which is it's an interesting Yom Tov compared to all the other, we don't have Rosh Hashanah Sheni. You might argue we have 2 days, but it's very different than having another Yom Tov. It's like a makeup one. We don't have a makeup for Sukkot, etc. We certainly don't have Chanukah Sheni, which I understand is Darabanan. But why is this Yom Tov not listed in Parshas Emor, which is where all the Yom Tovim, which happens to be this week's Parsha as well, which is interesting. But the answer is simple, said Rav Asher, based on Chazal, if you look at how it was formulated. Pesach Sheni was not officially a planned holiday in the sense that it was specifically inspired by people's questions. What was that question? There were people that were tamei from taking care of Meis Mitzvah, and which is a whole discussion in itself, very fascinating, but not for now. And so they came to Moshe and they said we couldn't bring the Karban Pesach when it was brought because we were tamei and derech rechoka. We were tamei, and you can't bring a Karban Pesach if you're tamei. And we were derech rechoka. We were far away, which is what the Psukim say that you're not. You can't bring it. So, but Lama Menigara, why should we lose out? We want to be able to bring Karban Pesach. And so Moshe said, "You're right. Let me ask Hashem what to do." And Hashem said that this is the parsha to give them. It's the parsha of Pesach Sheni, that they could bring a makeup carbon then, and they could eat chametz and matzah together. It's not the same thing where they have to keep Pesach, the chametz part, but they could have Pesach Sheni. They could bring the Karban Pesach. So this Yom Tov is very different in that it's not part of the Emor Yom Tovim of the ones that Hashem gave. Rather, it's an extra one. And Rav Asher explained that it's a very important one because it shows us that there's a second chance to make up things. Hashem gave us the Torah, the mitzvahs, and our job is, and this was what he said in Parshas Baloscha, which is where Pesach Sheni's Baloscha and Neros, we're supposed to be inspired to make sure that we shine and glow. He would always say that we are a Shalheves Olam Me'aleh, that just like when the Kohen lights it, so the Kohen touches it until it flames up on itself, so too when we pass the Masorah from one generation to another, it's not enough just to give it. It's not just a passing of a torch where we give it over, but it's something where each person needs to be Shalheves Olam Me'aleh. They have to catch on fire themselves. That's what we pass. So each person is inspired. We want to do as many Torah mitzvahs as possible, but sometimes we lose out because we're tamei or derech choka. We were far off or unclean. And so therefore Hashem says, don't worry, you could always come back. That's what Pesach Sheni is. It's an extremely inspiring thing. And Moshe knew, as the Gadol Hadar, that there has to be a mechanism for this. There's the idea of tshuva, and so if someone missed out on Pesach, how can you miss out on Pesach? This is your opportunity where you can now get back on track. If you look at the Rashi and Chazal carefully, Rav Asher explained that it actually says that Hashem did plan to give this mitzvah no matter what, but He gave a zechus to these people that in their zechus that they would come and they would say, Lama Nigara, Hashem, why should I lose out? So the mitzvah was given to them, and Rav Asher said it was put in Ba'aloscha to show that it's a separate mitzvah and to show the credit where credit is due for that attitude is what brought them tremendous success. In life is full of challenges, and Rav Chatzkel used to always say, Rav Asher said that Abalatar Messiah. So if you come and you want to be tar, Hashem will give you that opportunity. Someone missed out on Karban Pesach, Hashem says come. But Rav Chatzkel would always say that it doesn't say Harotza Latar, that if you want, that's not enough. It's not enough just to want. It's Abalatar. You have to show up. But if you show up and you say Lama Nigara, then amazing things will happen to you. Rasher also always talked about Sheba Yipol Tzadik Kam, the challenges we all have. We all have weak moments and we all make mistakes. And Rav Asher told over a story. I only heard this from him, I believe, once, but it was printed and it was recorded as well. Someone once called him anonymously and said, I need to talk, but I'm too embarrassed to give you a name. I know who you are and I respect your opinion, but is that okay? And Rav Asher said, yes, 100%. You could talk to me. What can I do for you? Fellow Yid to help. So he said he told him his whole story. And he had fallen to great depths of tumah and perversion and thought he could never get out of it. So Rav Asher said to him in his usual exuberant voice, it's so great that you called me. From talking with you, it sounds like you're hopeless. You think you're the first person to ever be tamei and rachok? Open up a chumash. I laughed when I heard Rav Asher say that because he was always telling us to open up a chumash. And you will see that when you're tamei and rachok, no problem. Turn to Hashem and say, Hashem, I'm drowning here, but I don't want to lose out. I want to shine in the full wattage that you gave me. So please help me make these changes and get moving towards Torah, Tefillah, and Mitzvahs and Tshuva. And that's it. And Rav Asher said he heard the guy was hearing him. It took a few times repeating it. And I kept saying to him, "You're alive. You could come back. You'll succeed." And he finally agreed. I have no idea what happened because he never called back. And I don't know who that is either. But Hashem always wants us to have another chance. So when we come to Pesach Sheni, we should say, Hashem, lama nigara, why should I lose out? There's so many important things in life that I want to be ambitious towards. Rav Asher used to quote Rav Tzadok HaKohen Lublin every once in a while, just a drop of background. Rav Tzadok HaKohen was a Hasidic Rebbe, sort of. He was a Talmud of Rav Leibel Eger, who was Rav Akiva Eger's grandson, who went off the derech. I know that the Hasidim are not going to like this, and became a chassid. But anyway, he was born in 1823 and he died in 1900. He wasn't able to have children on his second marriage. He wasn't able to have children. He didn't have any children. And he wrote that his svarim should be a memory for him, that they're the replacement of his children. Whole story in itself. But anyway, his machshava was brought back into popularity by Rav Dessler. And so a lot of people in Panovich use the Sefer, and I guess Rav Asher learned it as well. So the Rav Tzadok brings down from the Yavitz that when the Jews left Egypt, they were carrying matzah, right? We know ugos matzahs kilo chametz, and the matzah they were nice Jewish mommies and daddies. They brought enough matzah. They were eating it for weeks after. And it's ma'aseh of a similar banim. How many Jewish families? And I know when my father buys enough matzah for many probably till the next Pesach. But anyway, back then they had enough matzah. Says the Yavitz, and he makes a cheshbon based on Chazal, that they were eating the matzah they brought out of Pesach. They brought it out of Mitzrayim until Pesach Sheni, Yud Daled Iyar. Then it ran out, and then Hashem brought the man. So Rav Tzadok says that this is a very important hint, because in life there's two levels. There's first, and it's a Kabbalistic term that Rav Asher didn't usually use that often, but it's a rusa de le'ela, which just means divine inspiration, and then it's a rusa de l'tasa, and let me explain it, which means earthly or human inspiration down here. So what does that mean? That when we came out of Mitzrayim, Hashem took us and he literally kadesh orchatz. He literally threw us into, you're Jews and you're a nation, and I'm going to take care of you. Here's your food, eat it. But then that's how it started. But then the man Chazal Talis came b'schus Moshe. Right, we know that different things came, different zechuyos of Miriam, Moshe, Aaron, etc. So it came b'schus a human being to show that our merits need to bring it down. And it came in the zechus man el man el to learn Torah. So the man that started coming down on Pesach Sheni, which was the cutoff point, it transferred from Hashem and all the inspiration he gave us, and then it transferred into our merit. So just like a father, Tzadok says, teaches his son how to swim, or his mother teaches a daughter how to swim by first holding them in the pool and showing them what to do, but then letting go and they have to swim on their own, because that's how you really learn. So too Hashem gives us Pesach, which is he holds us tight, and he shows us these first days of the Omer, and we're eating his hashpah of Pesach, but then it runs out, or maybe we're not inspired, or we're tamei and derech rechoka, and now we got to practice ourselves. So that's the mun and the cutoff point of that's what Pesach Sheni is all about. But it's matzah and mar together. It's matzah and chametz together. Sorry, still in the Pesach Rishon mode. It's matzah and chametz together. You could, even when you keep Pesach Sheni, you could eat chametz, because we've transitioned into real life, and now we're okay. We can live that way. Said Rav Asher, in conclusion, who was the greatest person of Lamani Gara that ever lived? If we think about it, probably one of the greatest inspirational stories, Rav Akiva. Rav Akiva was a total Lamaritz. He was an ignoramus. He's 40 years old. He hates Talmidei Chachamim. He says, if you give me one, I'll bite him like a donkey, and I'll hurt him, right? The Gemara in Shabbos. And yet, he marries Rachel, who, by the way, was his second wife. His first wife died, and he had a child, which, according to the Medrash, him and his child actually went to learn, but that's a whole different story. Him and his son, his little son, both went to the same exact preschool to learn together, but we'll save that for a different time, maybe for Lag BaOmer. But anyway, fascinating story in itself. And he made something out of himself. He turned himself into the Talmud Chacham, into the Gadol Hadar. Kulam Aliba L'Rav Akiva, all Torah, literally in Shas, comes from him. It's all his Talmidim. Rav Meir, Rabbi Shimon, Rishon Bar Yochai. He has great Talmidim, right? And so that's where Rav Akiva is, because his attitude in life is Lamani Gara. And says Rav Asher, let's turn off the autopilot. Let's stop being just production Jews, and let's be the people we want to be. And we should say Lamani Gara. I want to explain also a very fascinating thing with Rav Akiva, that even in the physical realm of life, he also had a Lamani Gara attitude, which means that he would tell his wife when they were living in abject poverty that you're a great person, and I appreciate what you're doing for me. He would say to Rachel, his wife, and Chazal tell us, he would say that when I have money, when I'm rich, then I'm going to buy you a Yerushalayim Shel Zav, because you deserve one. Well, lo and behold, the Gemara in Nedarim says that there were 6 sources that made him get rich. By the way, not all of them were in her lifetime either, but some of them were. And he ended up rich. He had 24,000 Talmidim. Yes, they all died now, and Rich Shem will talk about that in hopefully the Lag BaOmer installment. There's a tremendous connection here as well, etc. But even in that aspect, even in the material aspect, those aspirations of making sure that his wife got what she needed were important. But anyway, he was a man who was Moser Nefesh. He would literally spend all the money he had to sit and learn in the Beis Medrash. That's the biggest Laman Nigar, and look what he produced. His entire life, which was wasted until he was 40, which is what's talked about in itself, but he got up and he had the attitude of Laman Nigar. And imagine what we could do with our lives if we have an attitude of Laman Nigar. Why should I be left out? And that's the lesson that Rav Asher left us for Pesach Sheni, and that's a lesson that Rav Asher himself lived in his own life when he had his awakening, so to speak, at age 16, and he heard the Panovich Rav speak, and he said, "I'm coming to Eretz Yisrael to learn under him." And the Panovich Rav said, "It's nice to meet you, but my yeshiva is not for Americans. I'll be happy to find you a yeshiva somewhere else." And he said, "No, I'm coming to your yeshiva." And he went to Rav Shalch Shir, and he learned under Rav Chatzkel, he learned under the Panovich Rav, because that's what he needed. And changed his entire life around. So that's the attitude. We could get very far with Lama Nigara. Why should I be left out? Even if I'm Tameh and Derech Rechoka, today, right now, Hashem, I'm Bal Attire, I'm showing up, I'm here. We should all be Zochah to have a very inspiring day.